Hello all, and welcome to today's Canalysis. Today I have 3 games from Tuesday's Seasons Coin Tournament, which is a glorified quick tourney. They can still be decent practice and lots of fun, but are generally taken a little bit more seriously than a normal QT. I was asked to play with a mixed team of my friends and clanmates from Moonmen and JJ. Our first games here are against the rival family team, in which we deployed some pretty straightforward strats, nothing particularly special with them. I will be talking about the tactics used and the reasons behind some of my calls during these games. This particular setup was designed to give the North spawn the cap advantage so we could have a good hold instead of having to push into them. There was some confusion in what I was expecting from the players, with it being positioning and each person's individual job. Unfortunately, we also had Josh lag out at the start of the game, which hindered the crossfire setup I wanted on C. The Vickers and IS-4 needed to spot and reset C down the middle lane, while the other two IS-4s capped B. The 4005 gets the resets and nukes any tank on cap, while the E5s get into and cap A. After this, we kinda settle into a basic hold on the ramps, preparing ourselves for a rival's eventual attack. After a while of waiting, I kinda realized that rival wanted to try and do a cap stop, which is a pretty solid tactic for such a close cap. This wouldn't have been a problem if we had executed a successful cap reset at the very beginning, but things happen. Now, the rest of this game is boring because to do a successful cap stop, they must flood our B cap with as many tanks as possible, while HP sharing and preventing a death as long as possible. So the whole point is to sit on the cap and stop that cap point from generating points for the other team. And if you can do it when you're on a close enough tie like this with the points, you can manage to keep our points from going up high enough for long enough that they go in front of us again and win. And the whole point of doing this at the last second is so we don't have a chance to prevent this. I keep it spread out for a while just in case, but formulate how I want to counter their tactic. I end up having our Vickers rotate around to counter cap stop on B and bring more heavies into play protecting C. This way, if they only send one tank to stop, we can nuke them and get enough points to win off the kill. For this map, I have the inner clip reduction consumable for the 4005 to decrease that 3-second inner reload down to the 2-second one, allowing me to do up to 1300 average damage in just about 4 seconds, half healthing pretty much any tank that might show up on cap. Now, for the rest of this vid, until they actually make the push, I'm just going to speed it up a little bit to make it not as boring and long, just watching us kind of sit here waiting. In the meantime, let's discuss the upcoming push and what Rival did wrong with it. As I mentioned earlier, to successfully cap stop, you want to flood as many tanks into cap and to prevent each other from dying. If you die, you lose those 30 cap points, which would ruin the whole point of cap stopping. This is the whole focus. Forget trying to kill someone unless they make it really easy for you all to shoot. Otherwise, get on cap, maybe get the cap, but the point is to stop the other team from earning points. What Rival does is put one tank on cap, and they rush 5 more towards me, possibly to kill or to go to A, yet they barely do damage to me and let their cap stopping teammate die, which just gives us back the points we lost from them stopping us, and puts us over 1,000, giving us the victory. If you do look closely, it looks like one tank is AFK in the back, which doesn't help. But with how low he is, he wouldn't have helped them much anyways with this last second push and attempt to win. Now we switch sides. We go to the south side. I thought we would be able to do this side much more easily. It's a pretty basic side to play. You get cap advantage off C and D, and then you hold. We played this very poorly, and it comes down to poor calls, unnecessarily missed shots, and poor execution of calls. With that said, I wanted to put 2 E5s with the Vickers over at D, so if they do go that way, we are ready for it. We have a strong hold already set up. And then I sent the other 2 IS-4s and E5 to C for a triple cap. Try and get that cap as fast as possible. On this side, you really want to go for that cap advantage, rush into D, get C. I myself decided to go for the hill. I want to get up there, try and see if I can't get an early bleed shot, maybe reset B, give us a slight advantage. This almost immediately goes bad for us. We get bled pretty hard early on in C-cap by their TDs and heavies. They do a very good job of setting up a crossfire between there and get lots of resets on the cap. But we did happen to have enough tanks that we were able to get the cap, but we do lose a significant portion of our HP trying to get out. From here, I decided I wanted to set up a push for D. I figured they were going to have people there. If they had two IS-4s in that position and weren't immediately on A yet, I figured that they were playing the D side pretty heavily. And right now, those two E5s get spotted, and that confirms my suspicions. What I don't know is there's a medium and dunk in the 268 in the back supporting them. It's very easy to push that still if we had a very fluent, full-forced push. Unfortunately, we don't do that at all. I have our tanks from C back off, leaving one there to prevent the Vickers flank, who just capped A. We wait for these tanks to come around. We're trying to get some bleed shots. We end up losing some of our HP still. And I just want everyone to get here fast so we can do a full man push onto their tanks. We should be able to outskill them in the direct 4v4 conflict that we're about to get into. But again, we make some crucial mistakes in this push that totally screwed our chances. With the push, you want as many tanks moving together and focusing fire as possible. You do not have room to stop. If you stop, you slow your teammates or weaken the push altogether. Pushing sounds easy, but I've noticed lots of people still struggle with the idea of full sending a group of tanks. It's hard to break that mentality of pubs play for a competitive one. Now, the issue with our push is that we stopped half of the push in the cap. We could have maybe left one tank there, but what ends up happening when we stop is we split the push, and their IS-4s push up the middle and pincer us. Now it's effectively a 2v3 and a 2v2 respectively between the two groups. If we had pushed our 4 tanks past cap and into the waiting E5s, we could have cleared or almost cleared them by the time the IS-4 showed up. The fact that we had to split into these 3 small groups across the field hurt us bad enough that we could not quite recover in the end. Looking back, I should have realized that we could push A and gotten our E5s out, giving up D but taking control of the other side of the map. I do wish we could have listened to the push better and had better execution of it, but that's just how it ended up happening. Our Vickers ends up trying to go and head towards A, maybe winning the 1v1 with their Vickers. Unfortunately for us, they end up in an all-out brawl, and our Vickers, who had taken a hit already, just didn't have the HP left to win the flat-out brawl. We also lose the IS-4 that we had on C with the crossfire, as he needs to go and clean up the Vickers so that we don't get flanked. And in the end here, we just don't have the firepower left to withstand them pushing into us, and when our IS-4 does clear the Vickers, he comes back for a last-ditch attempt to help. Unfortunately, he ends up missing his shots, and we just get bled out for a loss to their triple cap. We really needed the 268 to be cleared by the IS-4 in the back. He just has those angles to hit him, while I clear up the E5 and STB with a little bit of a splash. Now they push into us. Our last tank goes down to the 268. They start looking at me. I'm the next target on the list. I managed to nuke their STB with Andy. He's also one shot. We also need the IS-4 to be able to clear him. You'll hear the shot whiz right over. Neither tank gets taken out. Andy gets lit on fire. He goes down. And now it's just going to be a 1v3. And there's just nothing we can do about it. He does manage to pick up the STB kill, but they're winning right now on the triple cap, and that's just how it ended for us. I really wish we could have cleaned ourselves up and executed that game much more effectively. We just made too many mistakes that they capitalized on pretty effectively, and it caused us the loss. With this last game, we do manage to redeem ourselves, although it wasn't on as good of terms as I would have wanted. We still have bad pushes, but thankfully for us, they had some really bad focus fire themselves, and we managed to come out with enough HP left, got cap advantage, and just were able to easily win it in the end. But there were some mistakes that should have cost us the game, but like I said, they made these mistakes as well, and we managed to capitalize on them better than they were able to capitalize on our mistakes. But for the lineup, it's pretty standard. We have 2 IS-4s going into the C-cap. We have an E3 supporting right behind. I have one IS-4 going to a middle position to support the E5s or the IS-4s, depending on who needs it. We have two E5s holding mid with their gun depression and turrets, and our Vickers is spotting. This is very, very key, our Vickers spotting. Because the way he spots, we get enough intel that allows us to realize we can get into A really early on and force them to push into us. We also get enough spotting that allows us to react early on to what they're going to do. I do believe we spot some IS-4 starting to rotate so that we know that they're starting to make a push towards middle and A side. But because we have the spots, we have lots of time to prepare and be ready for them to push into it. We also see that they're trying to make a push for C. Not the biggest deal. We can back off and get really passive holding positions. All of this spotting information is the reason why lights can be the clinch pin on a game. If we have no information about what they're doing, then we can't do anything about it. We are only reacting. We can't preemptively do something. When I know that they're pushing the lower lanes around A and B, we end up counter-pushing them with our heavies in E3 that were in the middle. Andy and I stay watching C, trying to delay them from being active in the battle. The longer the two of us can keep those three tanks away from the rest of our team, the better chance we have of winning Brawl, purely based on gun advantage. We end up doing a very good job of distracting and delaying these three tanks, which really screwed them up, especially when they didn't get the cap, which let us keep pooling the points, which makes the last part of the game an easy finish. Another part of this push up top that killed them was the fact that they bounced so many shots. If they had effectively penned their shots and focused Andy and I down, they could have survived. While we delayed as best as we could, on the lower battle it became way too close when our tanks started to bounce shots and lose some focus fire. They lost their focus fire as well, which ended up with both sides playing poorly in that lane. I could have also delayed longer if I had ended up sharing more HP with Andy. I foolishly let them push into him and couldn't get myself in front to keep him alive any longer. Once they clear up Andy, it becomes a 1v1 with me in an E5 as the E100 abandons his teammate and goes down to try and help him in the lower areas. This leaves me in a 1v1 with the E5 in which he doesn't have enough HP to last against me, especially when I back him up against the wall so he can't escape. And I end up asking Auntie for the assist, who I can see in the background, to help me finish him off so that we could get in caps and just end this game already. Our Vickers ends up needing to run away from the E100. He manages to escape, and then the Hobri and E100 go to cap A. Now that the E5's out of the way, Auntie and I jump up on B. We have a double cap. They have double cap, but we have significantly more cap points because they failed to get those caps early on. And with the amount of cap points we have over them, it's just a sitting and waiting game, waiting to see when they pop up, where they pop up, and if they push us, they don't end up pushing us. They kind of do a passive, like, we give up and can't do anything about it at this point. The reason I decided to make this video is to show that we need to get better, both MM and JJ. And I do not appreciate hearing my friends and players getting called dumb. I reserve this right as the caller to say someone on my own team was dumb, but this is not the case for someone outside of the team. It's unnecessary and crude to bring your beef with others into the game and say something like that. It's kind of childish. You don't have to get along with people, but going around making fun of others in malicious ways is playing wrong, no matter who does it. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned something. And I want to make more tourneys for beginner videos, so if you have any topic you would like for me to try and cover, please let me know.